The Classic Plus project is absolutely insane. This project is completely community driven and has no affiliation with Blizzard Entertainment in any way. The project is led by Jurpi and Only, with a very incredibly passionate team that loves Classic WoW. The goal of this project is to create as many ideas as possible in hopes that the Classic WoW dev team will take these to heart in order to create the best possible game for all of us. This project is the perfect thing for the Classic WoW community. There are multiple surveys to give plenty of data on what Classic Plus means to you, as well as gives you the option to pitch in-game ideas on what you think should be presented in Classic Plus. Everything from the world, the player, and of course the systems. And over time we can vote on these as a community to shift out the good ideas from the bad. Today I'm going to be taking the intro survey, and I highly encourage you to follow along with me and fill this out. I'll leave a link to all this in the description down below. If you watched my channel before, you know how passionate I am about an in-game polling system. I believe that it's the only way that Classic Plus is truly going to succeed. Listening to Reddit or the forums is just not going to be the answer. You need to be pulling this information from the players actively playing the game. We would have to add a restriction so that you could only vote once per Battle.net account, and then you would have to add some sort of requirement so that you're not having level 1s vote for the polls. Something as simple as hitting level 60, clearing a raid, or something like that. All right, here we go, the introduction survey. Starting things off, which faction do you usually play? Whatever's best for what I'm doing, pretty much. Same thing for what do I consider my main race to be? Whatever's best for what I'm doing. As for my considered class main, probably mage. I've always been a mage main. I've been playing a lot of warrior and warlock recently, but I kind of gravitate towards mage over the other classes for sure. How old are you? Oh, geez. Oh, we're good. Saved. How often do you play WoW? Currently, I have to play around 40 hours a week in order to farm gold because of the anniversary economy, but hopefully that changes in the next couple of weeks. And I could play 20 hours or just 10, depending on how much gold you have to farm. All right, what is your experience with the various iterations of Classic WoW? Check all that apply. I did not play OG Classic, Beyond Vanilla, never played Vanilla. Well, never played Original Vanilla, I should say, yeah. Private Server, Season Mastery, Classic Anniversary, 2019, SOD, and I've never played WoW. Yeah, okay. Anyway, what roles do you usually play? DPS. I tank sometimes and heal sometimes, but I primarily just play DPS though. What regions do you play from? Can I put both EU? Because I do play from EU sometimes, but I'm mainly an NA player. Choose which of the following labels describes you. Choose as many you feel to be accurate. Hardcore Raider and Completionist. I wouldn't say Transmog Hunter. I wouldn't say Auction House Gamer. Wouldn't say Leveler. Wouldn't say PvP. Yeah, this is good. How likely are you to play Classic Plus? I can't wait to log in. Would you pay a box fee for Classic Plus? If so, how much? Really just depends on what is promised, honestly. I wish it would be included in your sub, but that's definitely not going to deter me away from playing the game. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you feel about Classic Plus if they changed the game and how it looked? Okay, so Unreal Engine, didn't Turtle WoW try to do this and it like never went through? I can't remember what happened with that. I would say 1. Character models, 1. Animations, 1. Spell effects, 1. Modern UI, target frames, action bars, nameplates. The old UI is pretty bis, but I don't mind like some of the stuff with like the edit mode and things like that. I feel like it's not bad. The UI should be a little bit more customizable to where it's easy to approach as a brand new player, because I think that's the big thing for Classic Plus is it's going to be really bringing in a lot of new players. And that might be hard to grasp, but there's definitely going to be players who have never touched Classic WoW before, but they're going to play Classic Plus. So I think it should be at least a 3. Like you could change some of the stuff, but I wouldn't go overboard with it by any means. How would you like Blizzard to handle server rollouts? Mini servers at launch. I think that's the best option. Condensed serverless, consolidation happening over time. I mean, that's going to happen over time as players stop playing the game. 1 mega PvP server, that's destined for failure. Classic Anniversary is a great example of that and how bad the server economy is. I don't know. Only 1 mega, this is also really bad too. Only 1 PvP server. That is insane, but it lets you opt in for PvP, safe zones in towns, war mode, etc. I would say mini servers. I really don't know. I mean, condensed serverless like SOD had was pretty good, but I don't know. Just go with this for now. It is what it is. How would you feel if Classic Plus had an element of a seasonal servers, resetting every couple of years? I think seasonal servers could be really good for the game. It depends on a lot of factors, yeah. If they do kind of what RuneScape does with leagues, I think that would be a great system to kind of follow. But if they're to reset my Classic Plus character's progress, I'm not so interested in that at all. How would you feel about layers in Classic Plus? Obviously, no layers in Classic Plus would be sick, but that's probably not going to happen. I know private servers do a very good job at this and they don't have layers, but there's a smaller density of players playing on those private servers. So I don't know. Maybe Blizzard could do it. Ooh, this is a good question. Should the size of raids be reduced from 40? I would love to see some 40 raids still in the game, but I know most people want to see 20-player raids. I don't want to see SOD's 20-man raids because it basically just turned the raids into LFR. You brought 40 people and you just steamrolled through the entire game. I don't think that that's the option. I think you keep like certain 40-man raids like Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, AQ40, but maybe when you go inside of Nax or something like that, maybe that gets tuned down to 20 players. I know that 20 players is a lot more accessible. It's a lot easier to manage, but also by taking away 40-player raids, you lose a lot of this social structure that you have in Classic WoW. You have these massive guilds. It's just so much more fun. The social structure of the game with 40-player raids is just so much better in my opinion. But I get it from a more casual perspective that reducing the raid size is probably the better option for most players. It's not going to make or break the game for me because if I want to play with 20 players and I want to speed run or parse, I can do that and have a competitive environment. And anybody who just wants to clear the raid can do that as a 40-man. Should the dungeon finder be implemented? As long as it doesn't teleport you to the dungeon, I think that's fine. And it doesn't like auto group you. You still have to post and put yourself out there, right? Should summoning stones be available? I would personally love to see summoning stones, but I know most people are going to say no. Maybe there could be another option here that like a warlock can activate them with a soul shard. I don't know. That's kind of silly. Maybe that's like some private server stuff, but I would personally rather them be in the game. But I mean, you also get some funny interactions where you have like a person who just doesn't know how to get there. And then you remember that as a core memory. I don't know. Go take the poll yourself, guys. I'm going to say yes. Should there be heroic dungeons? It really depends how they're implemented, because if you delete some of the content and it's all about heroics at that point, you're not going to do the normal dungeons really, unless there's reputation tied to it or something you need, right? It really depends on how it's implemented. Should rated PvE be in Classic? This is too vague, I'm going to be honest, because like Mythic Plus, no. Mage Tower, sure, that sounds fine. Leaderboards for rating, sure, that could be cool. I would say yes to some of these, but not to all of them. So I'm just going to say no for now, because Mythic Plus is just like a totally different thing for Classic, and I don't think it would work very well. Mage Tower is cool from what I understand, but I've never played it. I don't play retail. I know what it is, but have I ever done a single Mage Tower in my life? No. So I don't really have this strong opinion about these. I would just say no for now. Maybe if like more ideas are presented, it would give me a better like solidified opinion. Should rated PvP be in Classics or rated Battlegrounds, arenas, dueling? Same thing here. If you add this into the game, you have to change so much for arenas to work. You have to change DRs, you have to change trinkets, you have to change so much about the way the game functions. To me, it just doesn't work. I would have to say no. Unless there's more things presented, sure, but I know so many people want arenas in Classic. Go take the poll yourself, guys. Should AoE be looting? I wouldn't mind AoE looting in this game. I've said the opposite before in some of my other videos, but I personally would much rather do that. Maybe if you don't play a mage, you have a way different opinion about this. Moving on. What feature of world buffs would you like to see? Personally, no world buffs at all. Maybe you could still have them. Like, you could still have them as a world buff, but you can't just bring them into instances and steamroll the content. World buffs. What do I say else here? I mean, world buffs are the most fun you'll ever have in Classic when you have them, and then it's the most miserable experience ever when you lose them and you have to go rebuff in order to clear the raid. It's just remove them from the game. It could maybe be nice if they were still like in the open world and be a true world buff rather than using them to steamroll the raids. But yeah, I think that's good. Maybe alternative sources. Nah, I don't like to be able to purchase them because then that defeats the purpose of it. Like it's no longer a world buff, it's a consumable. I think this is good. How would you feel if Classic Plus trimmed the capabilities of add-ons? Just leave them alone. Let people customize their UI and add-ons in Weakeras. Classic is very simple, fundamentally. I don't think that taking that stuff away is going to make the game better for players. I guess it maybe lowers the barrier to entry because as a new player, like I said earlier, you got to think there's going to be new players coming to the game. What do you have to know as a new player coming into the game? Oh, you got to get this weak aura, you got to get this add-on, or you're just going to have a bad time. So maybe if certain add-ons were just baseline into the game, I would have a different opinion about this. Say you could track debuffs and buffs that are very important. You don't have to have an add-on. That would be huge for the game. Same thing for having certain boss timers. You know when certain mechanics are going to potentially happen. You can use defensives. You can use your trinkets and such. I think that would be a better approach, but I prefer to just leave them alone for now. Should the mount requirement be lowered? Nope. Keep it the same. Should flying mounts be implemented? No. Should guild banks be implemented? Yes, they're basically already in the game. They're just level 1 bank alts, right? Should Classic Plus have achievements? I would say yes, but I just know how toxic it's going to get very quickly with certain achievements being added into the game. Also, I think achievements as a whole just have to get reworked, because hitting level 10 or hitting level 60, getting a haircut, I don't think that those should be achievements. Maybe certain important, like notable things like feats of strength could be achievements, but not in the current system. I think it would definitely have to get changed. Should reputations be more streamlined? It depends which ones. I would say no. How do you feel about transmog? Transmog is bad. I think you should be able to see what other players are wearing. If you really want transmog, maybe they could add like a toggle for those players just so they can see what their cool gear looks like, because I get it. Aesthetically, it looks cool to have your coolest gear on. I totally get that sentiment. Like, you got rank 14 gear, you want to rock that rank 14 gear, right? But if you got a Thunder Fury and you're not actually using a Thunder Fury, I think it just becomes silly. Should a separated collections? I guess if it just helps with bag space, why not? If people want to collect certain mounts and toys, it just adds more content to the game. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Should Classic Plus allow GDKPs? If you've been playing the Anniversary Realms, you know that players are still paying to win just as much as ever before, even with the ban of GDKPs. If players are going to buy and sell raid loot, dungeon loot, all the stuff that Blizzard promised to get rid of, I think that GDKPs being banned really doesn't matter at this point. It's still as pay to win as ever, the game is still as monetized as ever, and it's really going to be up to Blizzard to step in and ban the root of the problem, which is the gold buyers and the gold sellers. The longer this goes on, the closer we are to having the WoW token added into the game. If you played on the Anniversary Realms, you know just how bad the economy was. This is not going to be anything new as we step into the Burning Crusade with a ton of the BOEs being best in slot very early on. So to me, the answer to this question really lies on Blizzard actually stepping in and perma-banning the gold buyers and the gold sellers. But as long as these things are going on, where people are selling Hodge, selling raid loot, selling dungeon loot, whatever the case may be, I think GDKPs should be in the game. The ban has quite literally done nothing for the economy. More people are buying gold than ever before, people are selling their hard reses, they're selling their soft reses, and all of this is just going on behind the scenes, under the table, and it's heavily affecting the economy. At least in a GDKP, you would have the bought gold redistributed amongst the player base and have the economy balanced out to some degree. Suddenly, everybody has similar buying power, and no one is at a huge disadvantage because one person decides to buy thousands and thousands of gold to afford their BOEs and consumables every week. Spending 30 to 40 hours to farm your basic consumables every week on Anniversary is just not the answer. A lot of players advocating to ban GDKPs think that it's allowing for a more casual environment, but I don't see how. Spending 40 hours a week just to raid for 2 to 3 hours is far from casual. Ultimately, having GDKPs banned really isn't the solution. Like I mentioned earlier, Blizzard has to focus on the root of the problem, and that's banning RMZ. Permaban the gold buyers, permaban the gold sellers, hire GMs to monitor the game, go inside of a GDKP run, and see how quickly you can flag an account and say, hey, this guy is probably buying gold, go dig into his account details, go check his mailbox, go check his auction house history. You can figure out very quickly who the players are that are buying gold. But no, Blizzard is never going to do that. Next, we have, should the level cap increase from 60? No, never. Because if it increases, then it's no longer classic, right? If it's 70 or anything like that, it's just TBC plus, right? What's the point of that? I don't really see how that would ever work. Having more talent points added to your tree isn't necessarily going to be a good thing either. It's just going to require further balancing and further optimization. I don't think it's ever going to pan out to be the right move. Next, we got, which of the following best describes how you'd like to see changes in Classic Plus to old raids? I would prefer them to stay easy and casual friendly, but I could see some tuning needed to be adjusted for player power just to keep up with the spirit of the original raid, so it's not just a steamroll, right? I don't think adding complex or difficult mechanics is in the spirit of Classic. I don't think that is very appealing, even though some players definitely want to see that. Do all the above plus new bosses. I wish there was another option for just new stuff within the old raids, but I guess this is fine. I'll go with this, I think. Should there be new raids? Yes, but only stuff that exists in Azeroth, Karazhan, Grim Batol. I think that you could go farther. I think you could go farther than that, like Scarlet Enclave is a great example. All right, let's move on. The player. Should Classic Plus have new playable races? Off the rip, I don't think so. If so, which of the following would be acceptable? Check all that apply. I don't think so. Maybe Blood Elf, maybe Draenei, maybe Goblins, maybe High Elves, but that's about it. That's about as far as I want to go into that. Should Classic Plus have new classes? I don't think so. I don't think Death Knight makes sense. Monk, Demon Hunter, Evoker, you just get into more of a retail feel rather than how Classic functions. And then I don't think completely new classes are going to make sense either. It's going to drift too far away from what Classic is. Even Death Knight, I feel like, is drifting away from that fundamental. But yeah, for now, no new classes. Should new race class combos be added? I don't think so. I mean, it depends, I guess. I don't think any race in any class should be playable. It has to make sense. Sure, but only if it makes sense within lore. That's fine. I can agree with that one. Should Horde have Paladins and the Alliance Shamans? I think so. By eliminating this decision, I think it's going to be more valuable for the average player. Everybody knows that Paladins are just better. In vanilla, Alliance are the superior faction to raid on, to PvP on. Horde do have significantly better PvP ratios, but for the most part, everyone's going to go Alliance. If you look at private server data or classic anniversary data or even classic era data, more than 60% of the player base was going Alliance. And it's just because blessings are significantly better than shaman totems, and there's really no discussion about that. I think TBC is a great example of this, with the raiding environment being very similar for Horde and Alliance. Alright, next we have should classes be reworked, new base abilities, new spells, class role combinations, etc. Now, this is where you get down a very slippery slope and you end up with another season of Discovery, which I know a lot of players enjoyed, but I know a lot of players who don't want to play that again. So for that reason, I think certain things like Totem Recall makes sense, summoning gates, combo points persistence, that would be nice. I don't think you shouldn't go super crazy with it, but some new spells would make sense. I kind of agree with this, to where Rep Paladins have a more interesting rotation. They're actually more viable, maybe giving priests vampiric touch and things like that, maybe help solving the balanced druids mana problems, stuff like that. Make them valuable to bring to the raid, but don't go crazy with it and optimize the crap out of the raids. Of the following, what is the most important change needed to raid buffs in Classic? Okay, so pick multiple. You may want to pick multiple, but only pick your biggest concern. The question refers to 1 hour long buffs, not Paladin blessings. We'll ask about raid buffs more later. So my biggest concern, I think you should just have raid wide stuff, because if you mess with the mana cost, it starts to mess with PvP to some degree. You could just spam lower level blessings and stuff, and it does mess with arena. I know that much. I kind of don't like reagents, to be honest. It's just another bag spot, and if you don't have it, then you can't do the greater blessing, or you can't do the prayer of fortitude. I don't know. I think this is fine. Should talent specializations be reworked? Probably not. Maybe, but only like a light touch. Maybe add certain things from TBC. That's the only thing I can think of that would work here. Should a fourth talent specialization be added? Like, no. I feel like druids should be tanks, but adding a fourth talent specialization, that doesn't make sense to me. There should only be 3 specs. I think that doesn't make sense to go taper off into another specialization. That's going to be very, very weird. Should every specialization be competitive in both PvE and PvP? No, because I think that certain classes should have their strengths and weaknesses, right? Rogue is insane in PvP in the Burning Crusade, as well as in Classic, but they're not necessarily the best at raiding, right? So I think that that would be the better approach, because yeah, overtuning PvE balance could break PvP or vice versa, so not every spec needs to be perfectly raid. I think this is the answer. Not in most cases, but vanilla hybrid spec classes they don't perform well outside of, yeah, that's a good point too. Those classes could definitely use a bit of love. I don't know, this one's kind of hard. I kind of want to pick both of these. I don't think they should be viable in all scenarios though. I think that they should have their strengths and weaknesses. I don't think that that's the answer. I also don't have no opinion on this. I definitely want some kind of optimization to be had. I think that this is maybe the best answer, because I feel like you want to be able to play all of the classes. You want to be able to have a balanced druid. You want to be able to have a shadow priest. You want to be able to have an Ellie shaman. You don't want these specs to be known as meme specs, to where they can only heal, right? I think that's the bigger concern. And then you can maybe focus on balancing them to not break PvP. Should dual specialization be implemented? Yes, this is a no-brainer, of course. I would love to see it to where you could only switch within a capital city, but I don't think that's ever going to be the case. Should a new profession be added? Yes, but only stuff like jewel crafting and inscription. I don't think that archaeology or stuff like that is going to work. Maybe it does. Maybe if it gets adjusted to work in a classic setting. Maybe not inscription, but jewel crafting makes a lot of sense. Should professions be updated to have more in-game relevance? I think so, because the problem you have in Classic is engineering is just the best profession by far. And if you're not going engineering, you're kind of trolling, right? I think that would be the first thing I would focus on, not necessarily just adding new recipes to make tailoring better or something like that, but focus on making it to where engineering is maybe not the best profession and you could have something else that's better. Or maybe you could add tinkers to engineering to where everybody could have rocket boots on their boots or something like that. I don't know. I think that is it. Into the survey, submit. That was it. That was the intro. All right, that was a lot. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. I'll definitely be doing more of these surveys in the future. And as always, I will see you in the next video.